Good evening, folks, and welcome to the February 20th Board of Selectmen meeting. We'll call the meeting to order and declare a quorum, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the first item on the agenda this evening is an executive session. Joe, I believe you have an announcement.
Yes, if folks, when the board enters executive session, if folks could go to the front end of the building, please, until it's over, and we'll come and get you when it's done. If you could go to the front lobby, Tracy will tell you when it's time to come back. Please, that's once they've entered the session.
Okay.
All right, and I will entertain, yes, it is. I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session. Pursuant to Title I, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, 4056E, consultation with legal.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Sam. All those in favor? That is the 3 votes.
That one of the things that people mentioned, the dog park and the survey over here.
Information we can
I was like,
check it
and
out.
it wasn't me.
Yep. Figured you wanna know.
Nancy always wanted to make her depot, like a big dog park thing where
They say, well,
Pretty good.
I'm surprised.
Hey.
Hey.
That worked.
Come in.
Yeah. I go, I think we can go back, because I just gotta hang. Hope he didn't bill you by the word.
All right, folks, we're out of the executive session with no action to take. We'll move on through the agenda. Any conflict of interest, please make sure we disclose. Adjustments to the agenda. We don't have any this evening, do we, Joe? Public to speak on a non-agenda item. Please.
So first I'll mention, so probably need to say my name, Travis Furland from the Rangeley Inn. And I'm here tonight on behalf of myself and the Rangeley Inn. Nothing I'm gonna say is on behalf of the Rangeley Lakes Region Chamber of Commerce. I wanted to speak with you this evening about an issue that concerns me for reasons of public safety. And that is the really minimal amount of police coverage in Rangeley at this time. We've had several incidents over the past couple of years that were very disturbing to me and to my guests, where individuals were behaving violently at the Rangeley Inn. In one case, one individual was a guest. In another case, somebody was actually not a guest, but it was 2 intruders. In both cases, more so the most recent situation, it was very difficult to have the issue resolved, primarily because there was no officer on duty. Border Patrol responded, and it took about 3 hours before somebody from Franklin County could attend to the issue. Border Patrol actually left the premises and left the individual there without taking any action. And so basically I was left at risk, my guests were left at risk, while this individual continued to be a problem. In that most recent incident, even when county arrived, they ended up taking I had to call again, Border Patrol came back. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time going through the whole litany here, but Border Patrol came back. It took 2 officers to subdue the guy, get him into handcuffs. And then by the time county arrived, county talked with him for a little while and then decided that they were just going to take the handcuffs off as long as he promised to behave himself. So for me, it was just a really unacceptable situation. I feel like it would be handled much better by police officers who report to Rangeley and who are hired by the town of Rangeley. One thing that's really troubling to me is that our police coverage is weekday, daytime. We don't have any nighttime coverage. We don't have any weekend coverage. And I would presume that the majority of incidents of this nature take place at night and on weekends, particularly because they're often related to alcohol and drug use. That isn't to say nothing else happens the rest of the time, but that's when we witness the most. It's not something that happens often, but it's really disturbing to me that when it does, we can't get a response like we need to. I've actually reached out to a private security firm because I'm considering hiring a security guard for the inn, which is just really, it makes me sad that I would have to take that step. When I moved to Rangeley, I felt like this was a really safe place. That was 10 years ago. I felt like it was a really safe place. Like you didn't need to lock anything, you didn't need to worry. And I definitely feel like that's changed. I'm sure there's many reasons why, but for me, the fact that there's a lack of police coverage is a major factor. And being able to round out our police coverage, I think, is a possible solution as well. Bring that to your attention. I just also wanted to ask what the current status is of hiring for the police department. I know that the police chief has stepped down. I believe we just have one officer right now. And so I didn't know if you could tell me more about what the plan is to recruit and hire more people for that.
If you've been in attendance or had the opportunity to watch meetings, you know that we are actively pursuing options that best fit the community.
Okay.
So we are looking into everything. The police department has had its has been a strained department for the communities for at least 5 years that I can recall, that we haven't been at full staff, but we've budgeted for a full department.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is time for us to take a good look at what we need to do to better protect our community and whatever that ends up looking like. I think you'll notice on the agenda, there's some conversation about an interim chief. I know that going into the budget cycle, and an effort to do our due diligence, ourselves and the budget committee have asked for figures from county for full county coverage, because we know that any decision we make will live and die on response times. I will mention that quite often response times do get impacted regardless of who's covering us. I know that if our boys are on and they have to haul somebody down to Farmington, it's gonna take that return time before they can take on another call. And if that's a Friday or Saturday night, that can be a real bummer, because there can be multiple calls back to back. So we are moving forward in the best path that we know how to at this point to try and get our community covered safely.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wasn't there a hiring bonus offered for, new police officers at one point, Joe?
Correct, Madam Chair,
Yeah.
there was a couple of years ago, hiring and retention.
So I know that's not a perfect answer for the evening, but we are on a path. I think this board is on a path, a good direction to find the best options for coverage for our community, to keep our community safe.
Okay.
Anyone else have any comments?
I was just gonna
Travis?
echo what you said. I had a lot of people approach me that have made second homes up here. And at the time that they bought the land, built the house, whatever, they thought it was a safe community. Over the past few years, with changes in the police coverage and whatnot, they've questioned it. So you're not alone. It is being heard.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And so how would we hear about updates on your progress? Is it solely by attending these meetings, or are there other ways that we can obtain that information?
It's available by freedom of access. You can watch any of the videos and or attend any of the meetings.
Okay.
I would think any big swings would be probably in the newspaper.
Okay. So I'm signed up for email updates from the town website, but I never receive anything on that. Is that a
Interesting.
platform that you intend to use?
Madam Chair, it's one of the things that we're working through now with the website. We're in the back end of it, updating names, positions, those type of things. So when we get to that function, we'll work it out so that it's working.
Okay.
We have not actively been using it.
Yeah, because that would be a great feature. Good way to get the information, because not all of us are looking at Facebook or local newspapers all the time, so. Well, thank you very much.
No,
I
thank you,
would,
Travis.
I would stay for the remainder, but I couldn't stay that long, and it's already been over an hour, so.
Thank you so much, Travis.
Thank you.
Any other public to speak on non-agenda items?
Yes, well, I was actually gonna speak to the same thing, but I just wanted to have another voice, speaking these concerns over, our lack of coverage, using other means of law enforcement to keep our town safe. So, I was gonna bring up the same situation, I had the school spiel ready, but it is very concerning as a parent with little ones, as, you know, just living in Rangeley, we did come here just so amazed at how safe we felt and amazed by just the community in general, coming from a place where I wouldn't even let my children go check the mail without me walking right beside them. So we were pretty impressed, but we are feeling that, especially in light of the situation that happens at the Rangeley Inn. Just overwhelming concerns for our safety, and having a desire to have, to really build up our local law enforcement here in Rangeley. We had a situation in December where there was mass flooding and we were cut off from most of Maine. And a situation like that is extremely concerning if something were to happen here in Rangeley and we had no access to anyone else outside of Rangeley. So again, just bringing home that point of this is urgent, this is needed, and you know, I don't know if we need to make pay more competitive. If there is talk of, you know, starting bonuses. These are things that, you know, whatever we need to do to put this in its urgency towards hiring more local PD.
And that is the path that we are on. Thank you so much for your input.
And we also need to go because we
Thank you so much. All right, boards and committees. Joe, sorry,
just
I
have
always
one-
forget to.
I have one quick thing back on the public to speak, if we can go back there for a quick second.
Public to speak,
Yeah,
just a
well,
response
I
to
just
the
saw somebody
statement.
in the public, I saw Mike in the back, I just want to ask him a quick question. I know we've seen a lot of increased coverage, we have PD here as well, but I'm just kind of curious with fire, your calls and stuff, have you seen a
I
lot?
wasn't prepared for that question, but,
Yeah.
Fire department is trending up. We hit about, I think it was 500 some odd calls last year. When I came here in 2018, we were at 240 calls. So we're seeing an increase across the board. And I would also like to stress, it's not why I'm here, but it's very important to the safety of my firefighters, EMS, that there is local law enforcement that can respond with us quickly. I can go into numerous examples of the radio traffic that we hear at night, the delays in the county, they're not always delayed, but you know, they've got a lot to do themselves.
So,
But I didn't want to get put on the spot.
No, I just happened to see you there and I just.
and I want to make something clear here. So local law enforcement can look like any number of things. What we are after is local law enforcement, but at whatever cost efficient manner we can get that for the community. So whatever local law enforcement looks like. I just want to make that very clear.
I guess I don't understand. That sounds very
Local
vague.
law enforcement would be an option,
Dedicated service to our community.
so we'd have. lots of
Dedicated
people.
service to our community.
And can you provide examples of what that means? So police officer would be one type, what's another type of local law enforcement?
No, it would be, we're talking specifically about the police department at
Got
this
it,
time.
okay, all right.
Yes,
I think that's the word that I wanted to hear.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, we're not gonna hire private security to take care of the town. That's not what we're doing, Travis. That's not what we're doing.
And that's not what I want to do.
Yeah, no, we've made it very clear at multiple meetings that we know how important local area law enforcement, police officers are.
Okay,
We need to have the face of being a protected community. But we need to do that in the most cost-efficient way and not necessarily the way that we've been handling it.
Okay.
We've had a 5-year dysfunctional department, and we need to look at how we fix that. Anything else, public to speak?
Thanks, Mike.
Sorry, I'm always open and very open and honest about this.
I know.
I don't want anyone to think that I'm not hearing any of you out. We have to look at, we have to do our due
Absolutely.
diligence. It is our responsibility
Yeah.
as your elected officials to look
Absolutely.
at every aspect of this and to be open and honest with you about what that means. And sometimes that's at the cost of our safety. All right, boards and committees. Cindy,
Thank you, Madam Chair. Cynthia Egan, I'm here as the chair of the Budget Committee. I'd just like to list the Budget Committee names because it's been
a while since we've had a full one.
3 years since we've had a Budget Committee. So I'm joined by Catherine Johnson, Colin Madrid, James Higgins, who is here as well, and Shelley Lowell. So there are 2 more seats open if anyone is interested. So you've gotten your budget packets?
We do not have budget
Oh.
figures.
Okay. In the past, we've always kind of worked simultaneously, on budget, so okay. The budget committee has had 4 meetings. We have just made it through the full presentation component. And one thing that we did bring to Joe's attention is the fact that the Rangeley Town Code for budget really needs to be updated because the dates in the town code, like for instance, it says, town manager's recommended budget shall be submitted to the board of selectmen and budget committee no later than March 1. And then the budget committee shall submit its own final recommendations to the board of selectmen no later than May 20, which
And
is,
I do just want to point out, Cindy, just because you mentioned budget committee and then threw in ordinance, but this is actually in chapter 2 administration ordinance, not any standalone budget ordinance.
that's right, it's in the administrative order. So there's, so we're a little thrown off, because we now have the secret ballot, so the timeline has been pushed up.
Also the school language.
The school language as well, because it's now its own RSU, as opposed to a Rangeley board. So the budget is up quite a bit. It's up over $2 million, but that includes some automatic increases for school, for county tax, and for some other contract services. The biggest increase is with the capital purchases, which is an increase of 145.5. We haven't really dived into that. There's been the presentation, but there hasn't been the discussion about financing, about breaking, because at this point it's in the budget as being raised in the full amount. So it's so that has that's been a piece that has been presented, but the budget committee hasn't yet discussed. The other thing, so there are some things we've requested. The TIF balance, for one, we've got the tax increment financing that pot that has grown over the last couple of years that the budget committee would like to look at for a possible source of funds that don't need to be raised through taxation. And I think, it's something that we discussed. The taxpayers are already, the TIF funds already don't go into the taxpayers' pot. It's a separate fund. And so to help taxpayers with that offset, to be able to pay for projects, not through raised funds, but for something to pull from the TIF account. So that's,
Did you guys have an idea of what projects qualified for TIF fund expenses? Because there is very specific language
There's
that it
very
has to qualify.
exactly, there is very specific
Yeah.
language, there, there's one thing, like for instance, perhaps the downtown reserve account, perhaps that doesn't need 50,000 raised, and again, this is a discussion we still, really need to go into depth with. There are a couple of projects that perhaps are close to the, that downtown kind of related, maybe not, but it's something we really want to take a deep dive into as opposed to just letting, not having that discussion publicly. And it's, so that's, that's where we're at. We've just gotten through the presentation part, so we have a meeting Thursday. We'll take a deep dive into a couple more things and another meeting next Tuesday. And we'll see where we're at. We're hoping to be able to vote on some things. Other things, we're still waiting for some figures on. But I look forward to working with you on, during the process. I've been on the budget committee before, I've been on the board of selectmen. While there has been a budget committee, it's always just a great process working together.
Thank you so much for the
You're
update,
welcome.
Cindy. Did anybody have any questions for Cindy? Anyone in the audience? I always forget Zoom. Anybody on Zoom? I don't see a hand.
So I'll make a comment.
Oh,
Just as part
thank
of
you,
the
Jim.
committee, and back up what Cindy said, but I'm very impressed with the department heads and the amount of work and detail they put into the budget. Transition as a new person and pick it up and go through it. So I take my hat off to Joe and his staff for doing a really good job.
Thank you so much, Jim. That's good to hear. All right. Anything else? Joe, just because I brought it up, the administrative budget, the administrative ordinance. Is that one that's in the purview of this board?
I do not believe so. I think that's a town meeting
So
ordinance.
it is a
but
town.
I can verify for the next meeting. I'm pretty sure that's a town legislative.
If you could verify, because I think it may need to be directed to go to the ordinance committee, just a suggestion, because that is out of date language. It mentions things about the school committee and everything, and that's all now a different process. The RSU does their vote separately. Okay, perfect. All right. I'm getting my files mixed up, folks, sorry. Okay, and we have meeting minutes from the ordinance committee, sewer commission, planning board, comprehensive review committee, budget committee, and draft quarterly meeting. Review of the February 5th Board of Selectmen meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the February 5th Board of Selectmen minutes.
Motion by Jim, second by Sam. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Consent items. Authorize the town manager to fill interim police chief position.
Motion to authorize the town manager to fill interim police position.
Second, motion by Jim, second by Sam. Any discussion from the board? Okay. Did you have a comment?
Me?
Yes.
Yes.
I
I didn't know you
sure
were pointing at it. I was just curious, why interim, why wouldn't we replace the police chief? There's an opening, why are we doing an interim? If, you know what I mean, you're gonna try and hire a part-time police chief when I think it would be more beneficial maybe to get a full-time police chief, and maybe you could, who, like for instance, if I was a police officer and you were a part-time police chief, I'm not gonna come to work for a part-time police chief because chances are I'm not gonna be employed very long. Is that the right way to word that? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't understand why interim, I guess.
Joe, would you like to speak to that or?
I think the biggest benefit is it helps the town with the search for a permanent replacement. So that person can be involved in that process, and also with making sure that everything is ready to go for the new chief.
Chris,
I can't say for sure because I haven't read over the state code on this, but for instance, at the school level, if the superintendent steps down, there's always an interim appointed, because there's certain powers that are given to the person that's in that position, both in state law and local law, so that way someone can serve in that capacity, in that position, and execute the powers that need to be executed during that interim time. And that doesn't preclude the person who sits as interim for applying or trying to get the final position. But that happens, we've done that with town manager, we do that with superintendent, that type of thing. It's normally more of an operational law, that's my understanding of it, but again, I'm just hypothesizing.
thank you. Anything else? Carl, do you?
Well, just on that would be, so we're appointed, so, well, we only have one officer left. So is he now chief?
Because his phone is ringing.
Timing is everything.
So what was your question, Carl?
No, I was just curious, that makes sense though, what Chris said, but is now, so appointed being you're hiring somebody, appointed being Jared's bumping up to, or Sergeant Austin's bumping up to.
That is not a unilateral, no, so all, yep, my goodness, I'm just having one of the roughest nights, I'll tell you, this happened earlier too. All staffing is handled by the town manager, except for 3 positions. There are 3 positions that we are responsible for. This is not one of them, he is. This is what he is asking to do to move forward in the most efficient and effective manner that he believes will benefit us moving forward. And we are supporting that by way of the vote. Cindy?
Yeah, so just to piggyback on what Chris said, and we've had interim town managers. Just for the sake of being able to continue business while a thoughtful, deliberate search goes out for a permanent town manager, because they, you know, the interim positions of authority come equipped with experience, they, you know, and they have the ability to carry on with, and keep the operations running smoothly.
Interim town manager.
Anything further? All those in favor? That is unanimous. I probably shouldn't have called for the vote first. Sorry, folks. All right. And now, the snow plow agreement with Dallas Plantation. Joe, can you give an update on why this is coming back in front of us?
Sure, Madam Chair, this is kind of a reciprocation with Dallas Plantation. They take care of Pickford Road, which is, when they come off Dallas Hill, they kind of go down that way, turn around, and go back up Dallas Hill. We, in exchange for that, the town is historically taking care of Pickford Road beyond the Dallas line, which is out past the transfer station. So it's a very similar amount of mileage, if you will. Money wise, it all comes out in the wash. It's just more convenient for both towns to handle it that way. It has happened, that practice has happened for quite a while. It's just hasn't been an updated memorandum for some period of time. So.
Yeah, so should this be an annual thing, Joe? Do we?
They probably should.
Yeah,
You
okay.
can, I think you can do it for longer periods than 1 year too.
Okay,
Make a motion to authorize the town manager to sign the snowplow agreement with Dallas Plantation.
second. Motion by Jim, second by Sam. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. All right. Oh, and the fire department reserve truck came up and he got called away.
Yeah.
Ah.
Just looking for.
The, medicine, get rid of the family medicine. Furnace, in the furnace room.
Okay, so fire department reserve, Joe gave us some information on the note sheet that he provides us. It appears that this money is in fact in the reserve account, the funds are in the reserve account, Joe?
Correct, Madam Chair, the balance in that account is 161,914.
And this is scheduled for this year in the capital
The
plan.
chief's command vehicle is scheduled this year, actually it was bumped from last year to this year. And normally I wouldn't come to you out of sequence like this, but in reviewing this, doing his due diligence, he found this truck, it's in Massachusetts. He's seen it, he's gone to look at it, and it was part of a fleet purchase that the Massachusetts government did, several hundred of them that they bought. And this one hadn't been sold yet, the company was trying to move it along, they asked if we were interested. It is in Tahoe, that's set up with some of the conduits and so forth that are required for emergency vehicles. There are some add-ons that need to happen. One is the tray in the back, there are some other emergency items that need to be plugged into it. So the total out the door is around $73,400. The base, the price for the base, which I think is in your paperwork there, is $43,000, which really caught my attention. I've looked at Tahoes and so forth. I said, "Is that number right?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Are you sure it's right?" And that's why I'm bringing it to you, because I mean, this is a vehicle that, you know, it's pretty typical for fire rescue command staff. The other thing that you don't have to do anything with it tonight, but just to have in the back of your mind is the vehicle that's being replaced. The chief drives now, it's got some miles on it. I would come to you after we have the new one and ask you if I could put that in municipal bid or something like that and get the value that way. We're seeing that that's a better way to extract value, is to sell them.
Is that the emergency one truck is identified in the capital plan? Or
Yes,
which, okay,
I
perfect.
believe so, yes. Chief's truck.
Oh,
But-
chief's truck, so not
Yeah.
emergency one truck.
Yeah, I think it's unit one Chief's truck.
Okay.
Again, that does
So
not need
that's
to
the
be part of
one-
your motion this evening.
Nope,
That'll
but that's
happen.
the one we're replacing with this Tahoe. Okay. I did ask Joe to include the capital plan, just so we all got a good feel for this is, you know, it's in its cycle, and the money is in his reserve account.
So motion for that.
Yes,
Take a motion to spend $73,431.10 from the fire department reserve account for the purchase of a new Chevy Tahoe as presented.
second. Motion by Jim, second by Sam. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor? That is unanimous. All right. Appointments.
Motion to appoint Robert Ryan Wilbur to the school board expiring on 6/30/24.
Second by Sam, motion by Jim, second by Sam. I do just want to mention that the reason this is in front of us is whenever there's a vacancy on the board, on this particular board, it's incumbent upon us to fill it. Yes,
Probably the longest member now still on the school board. I really appreciate you getting this filled. We did not have a Rangeley board member. We had that vacancy in February. Luckily, it wasn't any major impact, but in March, we're voting on the budget. And I'd been told Brian was the only one that had applied for that position, so I did invite him. He did come to the meeting, sat in the public, so he's already trying to get up to speed, and I think he'll be a good fit.
wonderful. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Okay, road name changes.
Motion to approve the road name change of White Birch Lane as presented to us tonight.
Second. Motion by Jim, second by Sam. Proposed road name. Is this a previously named road, Joe? Didn't notice what we were changing it from. Hmm.
This road this new road will serve two residential lots.
Right, but if it's in a subdivision, it likely had a name assigned to it. I was just checking to see if there was a previous name assigned. It's of no importance, no problem. All those in favor? That is unanimous.
Make a motion for the road name change of Barkey's Way as presented tonight.
Second. Motion by Jim, second by Sam. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. All right, old business, we don't have any? What? I don't believe it. New business, the Masonic Lodge funding requests. Mr. Farmer, you have the floor for 5 minutes and that's it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm
Okay.
kidding, I'm kidding.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This actually was originated by two citizens in town, but they asked me to come and present. Alice Smith and as well as Zelda Clark. The petition were gathered by Julie Schaefer, took over for Alice. Alice unfortunately ended up in the hospital shortly after she started this request. And then the Masons voted for me to go ahead and speak on her behalf for tonight. So she had asked if I would. So for those of you who aren't familiar, which I think you all are, is that the Masonic Hall is in need of about $200,000 in work in order to preserve, basically jack up the entire building, put some kind of a concrete foundation or frost wall or slab, plus replace all the underpinnings and the pillars under there. And the process also jack it up. And because it's in a flood zone, we'll have to work with code enforcement to make sure that we do everything properly for floodgates and those pieces, because it is in an active flood zone area. We've raised approximately about a third of it now. Alice had requested, and she's got in excess of, I believe, the 73 signatures that are required. I'm certified for both I wanted to present those for request for $3,000 to be added as a warrant article on the coming June budget. Of course, before distribution of those funds, we would bring an invoice or whatever from one of the vendors that equals that amount, if not more. Wouldn't be just to write us a check. It's your choice on how you handle that, but we're perfectly fine to present proof of the expenditure. As many know, that the Masonic Hall is not just the Masonic Hall for the Masons. They occupy the upstairs, but the downstairs serves a number of different functions, whether it is where pond hockey enthusiasts gather on before and after their event, birthday parties, a number of different events. We rent the lodge for a very nominal fee to help cover the basic expenses of the lodge. And for the operating of that, we open that to all members of the community have the ability to rent that without restriction. So, any questions? I'm glad to answer.
I don't think I have any questions. I know that you've gone through the process of requesting it be put on by petition, which is everyone's right to do so. If you've met the requirement there, it will go on the next warrant.
Madam Chair, I will put this into the custody of the town clerk. I won't process that. I'll just make sure that she gets that.
Absolutely.
She's the person that will go through.
And if there's any question there, they can reach out to me for the count, but I think there's well over 100 signatures, so we're hoping that should come out in the wash.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Did anybody have any questions? Any questions for Chris? Anybody raising their hand on there? Nope.
Thank you for accepting.
All right, letter of support for the Beth Brunswick Memorial Fund. Oh, I'm so sorry, I skipped solar eclipse EMD update. And I skipped because he's not here. I figured he was prepared to talk about it.
So I can provide a quick update. So this is something in your packets that we talked about with the quarterly meeting in Dallas here a couple of weeks ago. It's the same document that those folks saw there. The public may not have seen it yet, which is why they're bringing it back up tonight. So last week, let me start. Since we talked about it in Dallas, the emergency management director, Chief Bacon, has talked with the county He is putting together the plan for this incident, if you will. And it really is just to be sure that we're prepared for what we need to do at a municipal level, which is, make sure that the services are available, make sure that we know where to kind of expect folks to be. We're not putting on any events as the town, we're just being prepared to respond and plan for. We did have a kind of an ad hoc group pop up last week. Chris was there. Chris actually had a hand put it together. Travis was there. General Manager Saddleback was there. There were some others in the room too. We had a good discussion about what other communities might be doing, what we might want to think about as, I don't want to say worst case scenarios, but potential bottlenecks, potential issues. So the takeaway for the board is the update for you is that we are planning for this event ahead of time, planning to be prepared in case, we do get a large amount of folks coming to town, which there's a possibility. I mean, there's some folks who don't think we will, and then there are others who say, we're really gonna get a lot.
So all you're doing is planning for an event that's going to impact the community, no different than the July 3rd, no different than the concert, I mean, this is just an event we're being prepared for.
That was one of the comparisons that came out internally, because there were staff in the room the other day too, and that was kind of the takeaway was, let's plan for a July 3rd. I think it was Travis that said, but maybe it's more like the concert, but from the town's point of view, we're more involved on July 3rd, so we're kind of using that as our benchmark, if you will. So the update is that we're planning, and I and Chief are communicating with folks in the community about what their concerns and expectations might be.
So as far as nothing is mentioned about parking here in this this preparation. I'm concerned, with the concert, and the weather. I mean, that's a variable that none of us can predict. As far as what it's gonna be, where do we put them? I'm so glad they're coming, but if it is anything like I've been reading about and hearing about, you can speak for the rentals. I mean, everything's Travis's hotel, everything booked. That I think is a good sign that, and that they're coming. What options do we have as far as making more parking available to them for the town? I mean, is the airport a possibility? Again, I know the weather and what we will face. As far as the town park, I'm worried about the lake, people being unfamiliar, that it might not be safe.
So,
Sorry, yeah.
so Madam Chair, I'd like to address the airport and the park. We talked about both of those things in the room the other day. Airport is pretty much off limits for this.
Okay.
Because of FAA rules.
We may have folks
Regulate.
flying in for the event, but we also want to keep that open in case we need to fly folks out. Because remember, the biggest concern with this is bottlenecks, traffic coming from, and somebody in the audience mentioned earlier, there are times when we're always an island, but there are times when you really sense it when things are jammed up or washed out. So, our internally, the town's position on this is to not allow the airport to be a parking lot. We want to keep that open for its intended use as an airport. Town park also came up, and the question was, we're going to plow this off, because remember, this is early April. There could still be snow. I promise there'll be mud and ice in certain parts of Rangeley somewhere, possibly in the town park, but I do not plan to plow the park out. We may close it off July 3rd style and let people walk in, and a lot of people will stand in the park road, and you can fit a lot of people there. That's kind of the plan there, is just to expect that, they'll stand in the road. If they want to stand in the snow or the grass, that's up to them, but we're not gonna plow it for them. I think we would make a total mess if we try to do that.
That Monday, and I know in the past you've put up signs for no parking, like for parades or whatever. That Monday of that 3 minutes or whatever, consider it as wondering if it wouldn't be wise to consider it as somewhat of a parade, and have no parking on Main Street. Just a thought, just to keep the flow of people going. I mean, there are these, I can't remember what the word is, that they follow the solar eclipse and just keep on driving through. Do we have a signage? Huge, I mean, like, you know, to keep the ball rolling.
We did bring up the transportable message signs the other day in the group, we talked about the fact that those need to have highway messages on them. Now that's pretty broad, you know, we can
Right.
say, you know, no stopping on Main Street. You know, doesn't say no parking, but you know, don't stop once the eclipse, keep going, things like that.
Yep.
And I'm comfortable, we haven't written the agreement with the plantations yet, but I think we could comfortably say if we needed one on Dallas Hill for something, we can put it there, because there's gonna be a lot of folks at Saddleback there. I don't know if you know this or not, so there's the eclipse, but then there are also things that they're doing at Saddleback.
Saddleback is hosting an event.
And ancillary to the eclipse,
Yes.
so there's gonna be a lot of traffic in and out of there. I mean, obviously it's a different town, but they're gonna come through our town to get there, so we did talk about those things, and there's gonna be some follow-up. There's actually an I am responding group, which is like a message service that we're all signed up for, that people that were in the room the other day, to kind of talk about those things, like where are we going to deploy those signs, what's the message going to be on those signs, so that everybody understands ahead of time, you know, what to expect. So we are talking about those things. I'm not gonna tell you we have a completely definitive conclusion about things like that yet, but we're talking and we're gonna follow up.
This task force, you know, as far as porta potties and trash cans and, I mean, there are some porta potties that you can charge to use. I don't know if that's something for the town to look into as far as. I don't know, other than just the.
It's an interesting one on July 3rd in past, so we just talked about this in the budget the other day. Typically on July 3rd, we just expect people to use the comfort stations. But one thing we did last year in an effort to keep up kind of with the paper supplies more than anything else was to get some portable toilets in the parking lot. We can reassess that as we get closer and find out if that's something we really should do. But the comfort stations obviously will be open. I don't know if it'll be warm enough yet to open the bathhouse. Probably not. I don't know if I'd be comfortable with that yet. We still get some good freezes in April. So if we feel like we need additional, you know, toilet facilities, they probably would be rented porta potties.
When will you know that you feel that we need it?
Probably
Because
the
this
next.
is, we got a month, we've got a month. And I mean, I'm concerned, just, you know, for the well-being, I'd rather us be over-prepared than under-prepared. And in all aspects.
It's a dark week too.
It is.
Yeah.
Dark sky weekends on me.
Yeah.
Anything further from the board? Chris, I see you itching.
I know, sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to say, I just had a wacky idea like last Thursday. It said, let's find out what Jimmy's doing. Amanda's been working on this. Amanda Liberty's been working on this for years. There's a change of guard with the chamber, so Travis and reached out to Joe, and Joe was extremely accommodating. So yeah, let's all sit in a room and kind of shoot the breeze and see what we know, what we don't. And I've been reading a lot too, Sam, and it's all over the place. And the question is, will it be the same as people getting 2 hours in the car on I-40 in Arizona and driving? Or is it gonna be what it's gonna be? So one of the things we also talked about is the chief's already set up for monitoring what's coming across the border. So they have a good idea of what kind of traffic is happening there, and they're already prepared for that. And the other thing I suggested was to get some intel off the turnpike, because they're very good at tracking that. But the simple fact that could affect the entire thing is whatever Steve Jobs says, I joke about, you know, with on your phone. But if it's a fully overcast day, it's gonna be different for day trippers versus if it's you know, I think the biggest scare will be everybody if the 2 weeks out it shows a full sun, then it's going to be thing. The other thing I didn't know that the chief brought up, which was interesting, is Eustis is almost an extra 45 seconds longer their eclipse than us, 20 miles away. Now, not to knock Eustis, they don't have 23 restaurants and all those type of things, so even if people are these solar chasers or whatever you wanna call them, they might buzz over there during the event, but they're gonna come back here, and I think the biggest challenge is gonna be is the mass exodus at like 4 o'clock when it's all over. So you're gonna say, you know what? I'm going home. So Route 4 and 17 are gonna be pretty jammed out. And it sounds like they've got good procedures lower down there. They're gonna be able to update on what's going on with the traffic flow. I know we've already talked about it at the school about flopping, instead of early release Tuesday, make it early release Monday. So that way we're not dealing with school buses going on at the same time as in the clips. And Jimmy and they have a pretty good extensive plan up there, but it sounds like what their plan up there is not really for day traffickers. It's gonna be people that are skiing or there, and it's a paid event to go up there and those type of things. So I think and that's what we talked about a little bit of the signage is, nothing's gonna tick somebody off more if they get on the bottom of Dallas Hill, they drive 7 miles up and get turned around at the split. Because they can't go further because either they don't wanna pay or it's already full. So we talked about some communications there. I think, I agree that, I know Amanda Liberty's been talking to a lot of property owners like Dr. McMillan, those that normally have parking for the event, whether or not that's possible. But like, you guys all know, April, we could wake up the morning of April 8th and have a 12.5-inch storm. And that's gonna change the entire rubric of the whole thing. So I'm with you about this whole prepare the best we can in there, but I can say one thing for sure that I'm concerned about, especially in light of what Travis and Beth brought up today, is police coverage and those type of things. And whether or not some of the southern, we talked about if there's a way to get some of the southern counties that aren't gonna be as busy, if they can get up that way this way, and I know that Joe's already reached out to state police and we're trying to do those things, but all it's gonna take is some idiot who decides they're gonna, because they can't go into Saddleback, decides to go up the AT trail and breaks their leg halfway up. We've put all our resources down there and the entire town's jammed. So I mean, there's a lot of things that could go
But those,
awry, but
those
we can
incidents
only-
could go awry during Fourth
Exactly,
of July, they could go awry during
exactly.
the concert weekend. I mean, this isn't our first big event. I
Right.
get that there is some concern that it's going to be outside of the realm of what we're used to. But I think given the people that are working on this and the plans that everybody is putting in place, I'm not dismissing at all some of Sam's concerns or other people's concerns, but it's another big event in
Yes,
Ridgewood.
I agree. I think it's gonna be somewhere between July 3rd and concert weekend. Gonna have a little bit of challenges. The weather's gonna come into play.
The weather's gonna be huge.
The weather's gonna be huge. It could be a day. It could be,
Yeah.
you know, it could be somewhere in between. There are some people, I mean, because of the lodging piece, from what I understand from everybody I talked to, they're pretty much all full. So there's going to be X amount of people that are gonna be here, period. So we're gonna have that nucleus no matter what of congestion. So, I don't know, I feel, from what I saw from Chief Bacon's plan and what Joe's outlined, I feel like that one of the reasons I was nosy, because I wanted to understand, you know, are we screwed, are we good? And I think we're pretty good. And I do think it may not hurt to look at some beefing up, you know, maybe a couple extra port park, put a couple at Depot Street, maybe a couple up at the turnout or whatever, and then just figure out how far we can wing back. But let's face it, we get a big storm over that weekend, we're gonna lose a ton of spaces anyways. So I mean, we've got 4 acres at Depot Street, right? Roughly 3 acres,
Acre and a half.
2 acres. It's still not enough. It's gonna be congested. So, but I mean, I felt very good after the meeting that at least I feel like everyone's at least talking about it, so. But I do like your idea of, because that didn't come up really, for porta potties,
No, I don't know if they do that.
and I didn't hear that, so
I mean,
that's a good note.
as far as the overlooks go, I mean, that's gonna be, I don't know what we have any control over of that, but
They're all gonna be plowed according to Amanda.
Right, but I mean, that's gonna be a congested area. I mean, that is gonna be both of them. I mean, anything, I mean, we're just, Eustis is great, but I mean, just our line of traffic from Route 4, there's just so many great spots to be like, oh, you know, or I wanna be right here and I'm just gonna pull right over and set up shop and da-da-da-da-da. And I mean, I don't know what we're prepared to do for that kind of, those kind of people, do we, you know?
You can speak that, the
Yeah.
county was pretty,
Right,
sounds pretty.
but I mean,
organized.
Oh, yeah.
And these campers, I mean, that now modern day, I mean, these wonderful pool, which I'm so jealous of, I want one desperately, but they have these little
Mercedes
minivans,
vans,
these little,
yeah.
I mean, they're, you know, little cool vans that are gonna pop up everywhere and just, and camp. And there's no campsites available. I know that Quill Hill will not be open, you know.
We don't know that for sure.
We're asking.
Yeah, we
But
don't
I
know that
was,
for sure.
I was told no, that's a hard negative.
Okay.
Just,
I saw early on about the liability with the getting stuck up
they didn't
there.
want any of
If
that.
there's snow,
Yeah.
they're not gonna plow it,
Yeah.
right at the big.
But there's still snow on the ground, people are gonna ride up there. Cause they got that trail.
I agree with you, after the event, 3 o'clock on, it's gonna be just like 10 o'clock on
Yeah.
July 3rd.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Mhm.
July 3rd at 9:30.
Yeah.
As soon as that last firework goes off.
Exactly, so.
Driving 60 miles an hour down.
And this
Main
is an
Street,
even
trying to-
shorter show than the fireworks, people.
that it is.
An even shorter show than the fireworks.
So, but there is, you guys are working on it, there's a quote unquote task force.
And the town's role in this, just to be clear, is to be prepared. We know that there's an incident coming. We're talking about what could happen as a result of that and how we should be prepared.
And we'll get updates on that
Sure.
before, I would like, just out of curiosity, what's going on. Sorry, Jess, that's okay, yeah.
It's too much.
Sorry, I'm freaking out, Moose Hollow gonna be packed and I don't know what to do.
Time for vacation.
They got a good parking lot there.
Exactly, I'm gonna already have to set up, I'm gonna need my own private security for that.
Yeah, right, just to keep them
The
in.
parking lot.
That's gonna,
I'm gonna put porta potties out there.
no, but that note I didn't hear on Fridays, that's a great idea. The porta potty issue. And it'd probably be worth a couple grand to do it, just to,
It's not even that much, be a few $100.
yeah.
But
All
that
right,
is-
folks,
And
we are all set with that topic. I am so sorry. I would like to move us on because I know exactly what happens to this
Well, I'm leaving,
board.
so that should shorten it
Jimmy
up
gets
right now.
hungry, he gets hangry.
I know.
They're already.
We start falling asleep. It doesn't go well. Thank you, Chris. All right, moving on. Letter of support for Beth Brunswick Memorial Fund. This is another item that came out of our quarterly meeting. Joe, if you wanna,
Sure, Madam Chair, in your packets is an update from Leanna Welborn, provided this on behalf of the Beth Brunswick Child Care Fund, Memorial Fund, I should say, about the child care center that's proposed up by the school. In the packet is, and I won't get into details on this, it's kind of the progress of the building. Essentially, they're looking for some support for the next leg in their financing exploration. The question that was posed at the quarterly meeting was, does the town intend to explore the possibility of the Northern Waters Regional Vision Grant? The answer to that was no. We talked about it internally, Rebecca and I, about possibly using that for Wausau if the state didn't come through. But we know now that that's been phased out or slowed down, I should say. So no, we're not applying for it. They are looking to apply for that. So this is a support letter essentially for.
Make a motion for the town manager to sign a letter of support for the Beth Brunswick Memorial Fund.
it's actually for us to sign, sir.
Oh, okay, I missed that.
Yeah, it'll just be,
Well, all right then. Easy enough, you want a motion for that? We're just gonna sign it at the end of the meeting.
That's-
You should have a motion.
we should have it, yeah.
Make a motion for the board of selectmen to sign the letter of support for the Beth Brunswick Memorial Fund.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Sam. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. All right, Community Health Services Access Needs Assessment. Joe, you were in attendance at their first meeting. If you want to offer a quick update.
Sure. I was invited to go to this meeting with John Fusco, who's a doctor from St. Joseph's out in Bangor. Basically, he has worked with some communities to explore needs assessment, but also to work with them to follow through on some of those needs assessments for rural health initiatives. I explained to the group, there were several people at the table from the community, probably 8 or 10, they're listed in this email. I explained to them, that we're working on the comp plan. In the surveys that I've seen, pharmacy came up, healthcare comes up periodically in general. And I explained that, we have raised a health ride. That's one of the things that the town has done over the years to try to help folks get connected with medical care. I mean, it's a very physical, being transported off the mountain, so to speak. But this is really a task force or a group that's looking to identify the needs of the community. And then ultimately, it looks like it's a pretty effective model. Looks like they've had some success in other places, Jackman being one, Vinyl Haven, I think it was another town. The one that stood out to me about, I think it was Jackman, was where they did this. They had a remote pharmacist that could kind of oversee paramedics dispensing medicine on the ground in Jackman. So kind of an interesting thing, somebody had a prescription, wasn't an emergency, so to speak, it was a prescription type of scenario where that pharmacist could, at a high level, oversee that transaction many, many miles away, if I understood that correctly. It was an interesting thought. So pharmacy obviously was something that came up in that meeting. So they're going to continue. There seems to be some pretty good momentum there. I was requested to be on the steering committee, and then the group also asked if I would be okay reporting back to the plantations. Dallas seemed to be okay with that. I have not approached Rangeley or Sandy River. I wanted to get direction from you folks first. Number one, are you interested in me being part of this, or is there someone on the board or someone at the board knows that you would like to be on the steering committee in my place? I just want to throw that out there. So I'm looking for direction to continue on this, or a name of someone who we would instead like to participate in the steering committee.
Do you feel comfortable with everything that you have on your plate to continue?
That was and I voiced that in the quarterly meeting, was I wanted to make sure that we weren't spreading you too thin with the tasks that were in front of you. And I did have how frequently does this group meet?
That's a good question. I don't know if that was even ironed out. Jim was on the steering committee.
Yeah, I saw his name.
That was a long meeting, so I can't remember.
Yeah,
every
long
meeting
meeting.
we talked about.
But
We've
you,
got some next steps outlined. We'll make a comment about why I think it's different than some community health assessments that we've done here in the past, is they try to come up with solutions that can be put in play in the local setting. So rather than just identify, okay, we need a pharmacy, well, we're never going to get a pharmacy, right? $280,000 a year for pharmacists, then you got to be brick and mortar and everything else with it. But are there other ways to get to the end? So we, we applied for a WEHA grant to help fund this at Ranger Health and Wellness, and I was in it as both health reach and so they know what they're doing, they could get at it. Seems to be a lot of enthusiasm about the table. I do worry it could be work.
and I did mention to Joe, I said, after reading, the list of, I was on one of the emails and I said, that's a very impressive group of folks in that meeting room. And I can see a lot of productivity coming out of it. I just was worried about what impact that would have on you, Joe.
I know they're planning to meet in March. Katie is the protege of the doctor. She's working with him. So I connected her with folks at the school, trying to set up an in-person meeting at the school in March. So the timeline is there. It's pretty, I don't want to call it aggressive, but it's a pretty powerful timeline of moving this forward. So the next meeting that I'm aware of will be sometime in March.
I was just going to interject, this survey instrument will be like a monthly survey type of thing. It will be all electronic, so not compiling data. They'll be able to extract it out of the surveys that they use. So unlike some of the things in the past, that's why sort of accelerated timeframe too. They talked to me about getting volunteers, and I want them to take an iPad and meet with people on the street and say, could you answer, just what are your top 3 needs? Some of us are pretty easy.
So there are some survey questions put together. I do not believe I've shared those with you yet. One of those is quite lengthy and I didn't want to make it packet any longer.
Yeah, there's 100 question. It's more for people in the business, the healthcare providers.
And there's a shorter one. So when the time is right, we'll get those put out there. I think there's another question.
Lisa,
I have a question actually for Joe and Jim. Is this committee aware of the community paramedicine that North Star puts on? We have community paramedicine. I don't know if
I
they're
didn't
aware.
get into it in detail, frankly, I didn't think of it the other day. However, I did bring up North Star and I think we've invited.
Corey Morse would be the one.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was the name.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
Yeah,
just want to make sure.
they were aware of it.
They could be
I
a
couldn't
big-
explain it to you.
Yeah.
But they were.
Yeah,
Okay, good,
so there'll be
Yeah.
somebody from North Star on the steering,
good, good.
at least one person.
yes,
I was recently told from another person who works at another town office that, out of state, that their town got a pharmacy through the TIF program. They were able to give a huge tax break to the new business, just to bring it in and continues to get that. I don't know if that's something you guys might want to look into for here or for whatever project that you guys move forward with.
all right, so right now, Joe is looking for an appointment to appoint a steering committee member.
Make a motion to appoint Joe Roach to the steering committee for the Community Health Service Access Needs Assessment.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Sam. Joe, don't overextend yourself. Okay? All those in favor? That is unanimous.
We're not tired.
I am.
We're-
I
no,
do
we're
not know
all
what
that
is
tired.
coming up. All right, moving on to the MCJA policies. The agenda does indicate that this is a first reading, but I understand that we've had some updated information provided to us that this will not require a second reading. Is
That's
that
correct.
my understanding?
That's correct, Madam Chair. These are for the board's information, and if the public, wants to give you any input, they can do that. That is to make you aware of this. These are annual mandatory policies for the criminal justice academy.
That was entertaining reading. So much fun, so much fun. Thank you so much for providing the information for us, Joe. I appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions regarding any of them? We're good. Wonderful. Moving right along. Correspondence. See any? We have nothing to read into the record at this meeting. Thank you so much for putting that item on the agenda for us, Joe.
You're welcome. That was courtesy of the assistant town manager.
Thank you, Tracy. All right, and we're moving on to town manager reports, operations update.
The first thing I want to let you know before I forget to do it, I did not put it in my memo to you because I wasn't thinking of it on Friday, but we have received our first official credit enhancement agreement application, and it relates to the Frost Street project. I did finally get to read through it this weekend, Saturday, I read through it. I have to now refer to the TIF policy and remind myself of the steps involved in formally reviewing this thing. But I did want to let you know that there's an application for the Attainable Workforce Housing project that's proposed on Cross Street that, by the way, in case you haven't heard, has been approved by the planning board.
That was just gonna be my next
Yeah,
question.
so it has planning approval, and now they're looking to see if they can qualify or get any TIF assistance from the town. So that is, without getting too far off from the policy weeds there, the town meeting is the authority that authorizes funds to be expended from the TIF project account. So it'll be coming to you soon so that we can hopefully get it on town meeting warrant if you're interested. So that's just kind of an information point. I'll be updating you further as time goes on. There were two other things I think operationally in that memo. The town dock project has begun. That was a question in the last meeting. They're probably not gonna be there day after day. They're gonna fill in, you know, on their own schedule. They're not, you know, tied to a Monday through Friday. They may work 4 hours one day and 10 hours the next, the contractors, but they are working on it. And the aerial images, this is a question a little while ago. Have they been put on the website? They have now, but it was quite a project to get that pulled off. The images are huge and they were, for lack of a better term, kind of fragmented, but Mercy, who works out front, took the time and got those all on the website. So everybody internally knows that they're there now. So if anybody wants to see those, they're on the website, check out some aerial images of the town from year or two ago. They're pretty high resolution. So those are up there. That's what I have for an update operationally.
Calendar. We've been provided with the important MMA dates. That's just the standard calendar that they put out annually for us to remind us of things, reporting requirements, meeting that type of, if anybody had any questions on it. We don't have anything else that's going to impact Board of Selectmen meetings. We don't have another quarterly scheduled budget. And we're not going to do that outside of our regular meeting just yet, right? Is that, can we
Right.
expect to have that on our next
I think,
agenda?
good question, Madam Chair. My strategy with the budget this year is for the budget committee to
Thank you, Mark.
make their way through it, and then I will provide you with whatever information I have from them, and we have to update the book from earlier. Rebecca's gonna do that. They're meeting again Thursday. So whatever updates you have after Thursday, we will probably, because you don't meet again until the 4th or 5th, we probably will email you, so I've satisfied the ordinance as best as we can, so that you've received it by March 1st. And you can begin looking at it now that there've been some notes changed. The budget committee as of yet hasn't voted to make any recommendations on the dollar amounts, but that is scheduled on their agenda for Thursday. They may not be prepared to do that, but wherever it's at prior to March 1st, we're gonna get you that. And then at your meeting on the 4th, you should have that as an agenda item.
So we'll have the town manager, your recommendations for the budget by March 1st.
Yes.
Correct.
Pizza party.
Yeah, and you won't need to review that again. You won't need to talk about the budget until the first meeting in March. You just require to receive it. But you should begin, you know, in March, talking about it for sure, so we can make the warrant. But you should have, hopefully, the budget committee's recommendation, which in my spirit would mean it would hopefully move that along for you. You don't have to spend quite as much time deliberating on it. They will have done it for you, similar to what the ordinance committee does for you. It's kind of how I'm viewing it. You know, that committee, getting it packaged up, giving you the high points.
Okay. I just worry about us rushing into the process, Jill, and I just want to make sure that we don't find ourselves in, you know, the same position as previous years where we're trying to cram in all of the information and we end up making errors with numbers, and I just don't want us to rush through. It's such an important process. Okay,
I would think we're gonna have to have a couple standalone meetings.
I think we are too.
Yeah.
I
You
think
might,
So much information, yeah.
you might have to, but yeah, I think you can make that determination on the 4th or 5th when you want to meet. So, I mean, you can talk now about when after that, you might want to meet outside of a meeting. After the 4th, is it the 4th?
Yeah, I think
Fourth
it's,
is our next meeting, yeah.
yeah, and I think with the full board here on the 4th, we can then kind of iron out what everybody's schedules look like, and we can throw in a few standalone budget. We're gonna have to. I mean, it's such a huge, extensive document that I don't think we could just cram a couple of hours into each of our meetings and get this done in time to. Got it. All right, other business, the grant sheet has been provided.
The body cams are in. I gotta put that update in there, they're in. Saw those a week or so ago. I have not reviewed it yet, but I did get back the boarding facilities fund grant agreement that you authorized me to sign last time. They've countersigned it. Didn't even open the email today, but I saw the subject line that's in there, so. That's pretty much the update that I have on those.
And Poland Spring withdrawal, January 2024, that email was provided for us. Those are some big numbers.
Yes.
Mm-mm. $2,682,880 gallons from the White Cedar Spring. All right, any select board communication? Don't have any. We need that second executive session. Are we entering?
It should be fairly brief.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I can take it.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to enter into executive session number 2
No fire.
pursuant to MRSA Title 1, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, 4056D, labor negotiations. Motion by Jim, second by Sam. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. All right, we have come out of the executive session with no action. I think we've come to everybody's favorite part of the agenda, have we not? Motion by Jim, second by Sam. All those in favor? That is unanimous.
Oh, yeah.